A month had passed since the two newcomers had arrived at Mr. Starr's railway. Darius had settled in very well with the other engines, proving to be a very versatile, kind, and trustworthy newcomer to the fleet. On the other side of the spectrum, however, you have Pat. The engines were having a hard time getting along with him due to his random quirks, and the fact that he was an unfamiliar design from a previously rival region. Mr. Starr, however, was pleasantly happy with Pat's performance. He had proven himself invaluable when it came to handling freight on the railway, as he had shown to be a natural with the trucks. One morning in early June, Riley and Darius were talking in the sheds of Colford when an unfamiliar green locomotive backed down into the sheds next to them.
Excuse me, this is a private shed. No outsiders allowed.
It's me, you dolt.
Ah, Ramsay, my good fellow. Great to see you again.
Oh shit, what up? Don't you look, different?
Well, Mr. Starr ordered the chaps at the works to repaint me. Seeing as I'll be working on passenger services more prominently from now on, I think it's quite fitting.
Well, that's some good news. And here I thought that crash was nothing but bad news.
Afraid that's all the good news I have, chaps. It's only downhill from here.
No, don't tell me.
What? What's the bad news?
Please no, not this soon.
Afraid so, Riley. Buck will be back in a week's time.
Fuck's sake.
Oh dear. Is this the one I've heard the stories about? Is he really that bad?
No, he's worse.
Word of Buck's imminent return spread like wildfire around the railway. Though this would mean that freight traffic would become more stable again, the engines knew that Buckleberry Grange almost always came with minor incidents all over the railway. The engines working with Mr. Starr knew they would have to keep an eye on him when he returned. Then, June the 12th, Buck finally returned from the works. Yo, B-Boy Snake Dog G, did ya miss me? Not really, no, Buck.
Never noticed, to be honest.
Ah, nice to see that I was missed then. So, what be the haps? Mr. Rammy Harder Daddy over here told me we had some new faces around.
Call me that again and I'll rip your cab off.
Yes, that would be me and another engine called Pat. I'm Darius, by the way. Oh, I see, a 4300 Mogul class. A very nice choice indeed. It's a pleasure to meet you, Darius, and I hope you enjoy your time here. What's up? Did I say something wrong? For once, actually, Buck, you said something right. Who are you, and what have you done to Buckleberry Grange? Ha ha, very funny. I can be serious when the situation demands it, such as welcoming a new member of the crew. I'll believe that when I see it, Buck. The engines looked down to see Mr. Starr walking towards the sheds, but he wasn't alone. Alongside him were two gentlemen who looked about as pompous as King Richard. That could only mean one thing. They were higher-ups from British Railways. Good evening, engines. As you can see, I'm not alone today. These fine gentlemen have requested to accompany me tonight, as they have a special announcement for us all. What kind of announcement, sir? Well, they haven't told me yet, hence why I'm here. He motioned for the two men to begin. Right, thank you, Mr. Stodd. Now, I would first like to start off by saying that we were quite impressed to see that you were all still able to keep up with the quota we have set for you. With the bad luck that befell your part of the network, we weren't sure if we could justify keeping you operational for more than 5 years. It seems we were proven wrong. The engines looked at each other with a prideful smile. However, the man wasn't done. We did, however, find one discrepancy on a certain part of the line. The engine smiles quickly faded, with a worried look on their smoke boxes taking its place. And what part of the line would that be, if I may ask?
That would be the Eastwood branch. It's a line that serves 2 small town stations and a dying quarry. We've been looking at it for a while now, and we simply cannot justify it being operational. They have a fully viable road that they can use for transport of people and goods should they so desire, but the railway will simply not profit enough by keeping it open.
Therefore, we have come to the decision that we will be closing the line, effective immediately. All operations have been suspended and the land will be sold off to the highest bidder. The engines and Mrs. Starr were speechless. Virgil and Clint in particular. They had heard stories about British Railways closing down branch lines. It was in fact the reason why they had sided with Mr. Starr to begin with. Virgil was the first to break the silence. But that's what me and Clint are allocated to. What will we do now? Well, seeing as 2666 is currently under the ownership of Bradford here, he'll be transferred to whatever job he's deemed necessary for.
As for you, 5404, your services will no longer be required. Therefore, you will be withdrawn from service, also effective immediately. You will be picked up in the morning by a pre-arranged freight train. I suggest you say your goodbyes before then.
At those words, Virgil broke down. He couldn't believe what was happening. This was the end. It was all over. Clint was furious, but he had to try and remain calm while him and an equally angry Ramsay tried to comfort the pannier, but to no avail. Darius was also quite upset. Though he had just gotten to know Virgil, he could not believe that British Railways would just throw away this young and hard worker like he was nothing. And then there was Buck. He was enraged at the fact that two gits with silver spoons up their arses could come here and command the place as if Mr. Starr didn't even exist. He was about to give them a piece of his mind, but Mr. Starr beat him to it. How much? I'm sorry? How much are you selling the land for?
Well, it would be for a profitable price, I can assure you of that. But I don't see how that's...
Whatever price you're asking, I'll double it, on one condition. He turned to Virgil. He stays under my ownership. Wait, what?
Are you sure about this?
We would highly advise against that. Like we said, the line is no longer profitable. Keeping that line operational would ruin you financially. I know what you said. However, I believe I can prove to you just how profitable that branch line can be. Now, shall we discuss this any further, or are you going to ignore my offer? If you are dead set on this, I guess we have no choice but to oblige to your terms.
Indeed, we can talk more detail in your office.
Yes, we can. You gentlemen walk on ahead. I have to have a word with my fleet. As you wish, we will be waiting. The two men made their way out of earshot, making sure no one could hear them before breaking into conversation.
Are you sure we should let him go on with this? I thought the whole idea of this closure was to hamper the railway's profits.
Yes, it was. I was not expecting that move from him. However, I should have, seeing as this line is his family's legacy. Don't worry though, he's young, and he doesn't have the experience needed to run a branch line of his own. Nothing will get in our way of reaching the digging site. Meanwhile, back at the sheds, Mrs. Starr and the engines had finally managed to calm down Virgil to the point where he could at least think straight. I don't know what to say. I could never thank you enough for this. I thought I was a gunner, sir. So did I, sir. Thank you so much. Well, I wasn't planning on buying any land from British Railways just yet, but they kinda forced my hand here. I'm sorry they put you through this, Virgil. I'll be fine, sir. I'm just relieved I've been saved from the torch. Thank you. I'm forever in your debt. I don't understand, though. Everyone turned their attention to Darius. Don't understand what? How can they just throw away a young and hard-working engine like it's nothing? It makes me sick to the frames. Ramsay, Virgil, and Clint gave Mr. Starr an assuring look. He quickly recognized what they meant and turned to face Buck. Buck, could you please take Clint's next train up to Redwick? I need to have a word with him and Virgil. I mean, sure, but I kinda wanted to... Buck, please. He looked over to Clint. The Aberdare had a pleading look on his smokebox. Okay, sir. I'll do it straight away. Thank you, Buck. They waited till Buck was far enough away. Then Mr. Starr turned to Darius. Darius, I want to run something by you. I would understand if you want no part in it, but I could use the help of a hard worker such as yourself. I'm listening. Well, I don't have the time to give you the full rundown, but the long and short of it is, we're going to try and break away from British Railways' grasp. But I can't afford to purchase everything in one go at this very moment, so I will need your help to get it done, one contract at a time. Can I trust you to help me with this? Darius pondered for a moment, deep in his own thoughts, but then he replied, To be totally honest with you, sir, Had you asked me this yesterday, I would have told you there was no way I could go along with something like that. But after seeing the complete disregard of a hard-working engine that British Railways sold, I have no trust left in them. So, you'll do it? It would be a pleasure, sir. I know his engines will be safer under your care, especially after what you did for Virgil here. Ah, splendid. I have to dash now, but these chaps are all in on it. They can fill you in on everything, including who is and isn't on board. He turned to walk away, but spun her back around before he reached the end of the turntable. Oh, and by the way, Clint and Virgil, I want you at the works first thing in the morning, okay?
Yes, sir.
And with that, Mr. Starr walked off to do business with the men from British Railways, while the other engines looped Darius in on everything they knew about Mr. Starr's plans. The next morning, Clint and Virgil were at the works bright and early, awaiting Mr. Starr's arrival. I wonder what he wanted us here for. We've still got a few years till we have to go in for overhaul.
True, but I'm sure he's up to something clever. Though I just don't know what yet.
Well, we're about to find out. Here he comes now. Morning, you two. I bet you're wondering why I've made you come here this morning.
Yes, sir. Last I checked, we're still good for operation for at least another 3 years.
Yes, Clint, that is correct. However, I've had an idea for how we can win some favor with the people on the Eastwood branch, and even further than that, the line as a whole. Is that so? What you have in mind, sir? Well, as most of you know, cut costs from British Railways don't really leave much room for engine and track maintenance. Well, I see that as an absolute failure on their part, and it really shows how they care more about money than they do about the needs of the people and engines. So I have decided to invest in a complete overhaul of everything on the Eastwood branch. He gave them a subtle smile. That, of course, includes you two. So how about it? New livery sound tempting? It's your own choice what color you want to go into. Wait, seriously? We get to choose ourselves?
Wow, thank you so much, sir. I promise we won't let you down.
That's the spirit. Now you two just tell the workmen what you want, and they'll get it sorted. No problem. Mr. Starr had spent the rest of the day surveying the area of the Eastwood branch, and what actually needed to be done in and around the area of the railway. Though the tracks and trackbed were in generally good condition, minus the weeds, there were some areas that needed a lot of work done, the yards and stations in particular. He had also taken the time to talk to the managers of the local businesses, and in particular, the quarry, who were all very grateful that he had saved their railway connection, allowing them to continue sending their goods to all edges of the country. Some even offered to help when the time came to start refurbishing the line. All seemed to be going well as he boarded the train back down to Manifel, not really minding his surroundings, nor who was pulling the train. That night, Hart Hall and Anthony Manor, another engine deeply loyal to British Railways, were alone in the sheds at Colford. King Richard was not aware of the recent events as he was away with the express to London, and wouldn't be back for a while. Hart Hall and Anthony Manor, however, were fully aware of what had been going on and had decided to meet up and discuss these troubling events.
I just can't put my finger on it. Why would he buy a part of the line that British Railways have deemed unprofitable? What would he gain from it?
That, and saving that pannier tank. If he was really that good of an engine, then why would British Railways condemn him for withdrawal? It's like he has lost all respect for their authority.
As far as I can remember, he never had any. Ever since they took control of the railway after the war ended, he has resented their word. He's up to something, I'm sure of it. I just can't put my finger on what.
Me neither. But yet again, we are stuck with no proof. We will just have to keep a close eye on them and not... get spotted.
Do you think he heard anything?
At the speed he was going, fat chance.
But Ramsay did indeed hear parts of their conversation. Though it wasn't much, he now knew they were onto them. just not at a capacity where they had any evidence to bring back to British Railways. Ramsay thundered away to warn the others about what he had heard, while the two loyalists slowly drifted off to sleep.
Hello there.